So I'm here today at Zion National Park, and as you can see, it's basically like the Garden of Eden here. And today is the day that I am going to hike Angel's Landing. There's one of the scariest hikes I've ever seen. They tell you not to do it if you're afraid of heights. They advise that you go early in the morning to beat the crazy crowds, make it a little bit more doable. So of course, against all advice, I, a person who is afraid of heights, am going to go do this hike in the afternoon. And we're gonna see how it goes. I'll see you on the trail. Okay, so actually this is one of the reasons why I like to hike in the afternoon. Because there's nobody here. Like, I have the trail basically to myself. Everybody's trying to get out in the morning. Everybody's always out between 8 and 12 they start these hikes. But you have until sunset, which is basically 8 o'clock here. So I can take my sweet time. I don't have anyone on the trail to really bother me. And I mean, getting a shuttle ticket to get even into this park is like winning the damn lottery here. So I just feel lucky I'm able to do this, but yeah, no people. Okay, so you see all those little ants coming down the hill? Those are the switchbacks of this trail. I think they're called Walter's Wiggles, which I think is hilarious and really cute and probably makes it sound easier than it is. But that's where we're going, and all those little ants are coming down. So when I go up, they'll be coming down. It'll be great. This trail is crazy. As people pass me on the switchbacks, I'm pretty sure they feel sorry for me for what I'm about to encounter. But totally worth it. So I did not make it to the top of Angel's Landing. I tried, and it was a no-go for me. A hell no.
Better than me. I didn't even try. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to make it.
The sketchiest part of Angel's Landing is definitely the chain section. When you get up to the top, there's about a half a mile left to go, where the rock is basically just like a sheer drop on either side, and there's this very narrow area for you to walk out on. In some places it's completely slanted, and you better have good grips on your shoes to keep you on the side of that mountain. And I think what's even scarier about it is that Angel's Landing is one of the most popular hikes in the park, and so at any given time, unless you're gonna go first thing in the morning, there's a lot of other people trying to go up and down this very, very narrow path with you. So you're all trying to hold the chain and not push each other off the mountain. I think that part was probably even just as scary for me.
The people factor.
It's the people factor. So first off, the campgrounds. They only have 2 campgrounds there. They have Watchman Campground and South Campground. And both are super hard to get sites at. You kind of have to be at the ready at midnight on the day that a campsite is released, and you gotta fight for it. And then maybe you could string together a few days so you can be there in the park. But overall, it's worth it because these sites are awesome. They have great cell phone service. You're right next to Springdale, this little town right outside of the park. You can even walk to a brewery from these sites. And also, you're right by the shuttle. So Zion limits access into the canyon of the park, and for good reason. It's small, and I can imagine if cars were in there, it would be crazy and a lot harder to enjoy. So if you want to access the canyon, you have to take their shuttle. And in order to get on the shuttle, you have to buy tickets. Tickets usually sell out weeks, months in advance, except for at 5 o'clock the night before, every day, they release a small batch of tickets for people to get. And they sell out in 30 seconds. So
there are people who write algorithms to buy them as soon as they come online. Computer programmers that also love hiking and adventure.
Right.
So that's what you're up against. So the first hike we did was the Narrows, which is essentially a walk through the Virgin River. So you can rent waders and a walking stick and these badass water hiking shoes. Mm-hmm. And so we got on all our waders and everything. We're all decked out. And we took the shuttle into the Narrows. That was probably the most crowded hike I've been on in a long time. There were people everywhere. And you had to be careful walking through the water because some people would be in front of you moving really slowly, so you had to walk around. And that was a little frustrating at first. But once you got further in, the crowd thinned a little bit and you could kind of have a little more time to yourself to explore. And I really liked seeing how deep we could go into the water.
Yeah, we liked the deep stuff
The deep
best.
stuff. So we were trying to see like how deep we could go, and I got it up to my chest. I think that was probably the deepest I got in there. It was difficult because of your footing, and somebody like a few days before like broken their ankle there. So you have to be very careful and very aware of the surface under your feet.
The Narrows was definitely one of the most unique and challenging hikes technically that I've ever done. Just the amount of concentration you have to use to make sure you're not slipping on rocks and watching where you're going and keeping your balance the whole time. It's very different than any other hike I've ever done. I do highly recommend it. Super fun. Get the waders. It's worth it.
I got in this great routine early on during our stay there where I would wrap up work and then get on my bike and ride through the canyon. And the first time I did it, my mind was blown. It was the most majestic, beautiful thing I'd seen on our trip. I thought to myself, if this is the only thing I did all year, I'd be happy. It was that special, just like riding through during the sunset. And from that time on, I made it a point to bike every day and also use my bike to get to hikes instead of like trying to do the shuttle dance. So the day before we left, I biked to the Lower Pine Creek waterfall, which is really close to our campground, and hiked up there and had some really fun bouldering. These really cool spots where you had to like sneak through these holes in the rock and like jump from boulder to boulder. And then you got up to this little pool with a small waterfall. And I was there kind of taking it in, and all of a sudden I noticed this little bird that had a nest right beneath the waterfall. And it was sort of flying around, and it landed right near the water and then dove into the water and started swimming around and collecting things underwater and bringing it up into the nest. And I was just like blown away by this little aquatic bird that I stumbled upon up at this pool. And come to find out, it's called the American Dipper. And it has some interesting behavior. It'll like stand by the water and like do this little thing, and no one really knows why they do it. Some bird experts theorize that it's using those motions to sort of avoid some of the refraction coming off the water so it can see what's going on under there. But it was a cool little discovery, that little bird.
We also biked up together one night after the shuttles were really dying down, and we biked up to the lodge where you can start the hike to the emerald pools. And we went up to all three, and it was so nice being up there because it was totally quiet. I think there was only maybe one or two couples we ran into. And it felt really special to be in a part of the park like that where there was really nobody around and kind of have it all to yourself. So I think that was one of my favorite moments in the park. We saw bats.
We saw a ton of bats, and they were crazy. They were flying around so fast, and then they would just squeeze right into the cracks, like full speed, fly right into the cracks, which I thought was fascinating. And that was a hike too where every subsequent pool we got to, we were like, we want to make this our home. We want to go back to hunter-gatherer style and live here permanently.
Yeah.
There were just like these little features, these little nooks with water flowing through them that were just awesome.
Yeah, we're water people.
We're water people.
I think that was like a big reason why we were so happy at Zion, is because, I mean, the gorgeous Virgin River flowing through the entire canyon.
Yeah, the campground too. It flowed through the campground so you could hear the water running.
Hear it.
All those negative ions.
So after Angel's Landing, I was actually super hot. My feet were so sore, and I just wanted to rest for a minute. And they have spots where you can access the river. So I put my bathing suit on, and I jumped into the river, into like this little natural jacuzzi spot, and I just relaxed there for like a good half hour, and it was so nice. I wish every hike ended like that. So of course, while we were in Zion, we had to go out for dinner at least one night, and thanks to another great recommendation from Kelsey, we went to King's Landing in Springdale.
Not named after Game of Thrones.
Unfortunately.
That show.
Stop. It was a really nice dinner. I think the star of the show, for me, maybe was the massive Bavarian homemade pretzel that we got. Big, soft pretzel lover.
Best pretzel I've ever had. Small, big, or otherwise.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh
so
man.
good.
I think I asked the waiter like how many pretzels they had in the kitchen, because I wanted them put in the truck for the rest of our trip. It came out on like a hanger. It was like hanging on this thing. It was hilarious. The presentation was great.
Yeah. It was also the first night that we had had wine in several weeks, because Apparently, finding wine in Utah is like finding a needle in a haystack. So, I had me a few glasses of wine that night.
It was also interesting because we noticed that none of the waiters had masks on, and it's because a couple of days prior, Utah lifted their mask mandate. So we were like, it took us a second. Once we were like in there, I was like, something's different here. And it was like, yeah, the waiters don't have their masks on. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Weird.
So I got the steak special, and what really stole the show in this dish was these plantains that they added to it. And there was like a chimichurri sauce, and then this like blue cheese gorgonzola.
Yeah.
And when you combine those with the plantain, it was like this sweet, savory flavor. It was amazing. We have to try to replicate this little plantain action here. I wish the whole meal was just like a pile of plantains. It was incredible. The steak was good too.
So from here, we're heading to Bryce Canyon National Park, which is just about an hour and a half up the road, and we'll see you guys there.
See ya.